All right, everyone, welcome in. Ready to dive deep again? Today, we're taking a close look at Cancer and Scorpio compatibility, especially romantically, because let's be honest, that's usually the juicy stuff, right?
Right.
So someone sent in this astrological analysis, and it really dives into whether this pairing's going to be smooth sailing or, well, kind of a shipwreck.
Yeah, one thing that jumps out right away is the intensity. You got two water signs, both really emotional and intuitive, but how they handle those emotions,
Yeah.
totally different.
Okay, see, that's already getting at something I saw in this analysis. When it talks about intimacy, it's definitely like, it's not subtle about Scorpio's rep for, having a powerful, almost like smoldering sensuality. It even calls it dark. What's the astrological reason for all that heat?
It's interesting, isn't it? See, with Scorpio, what happens in the bedroom, it's not just physical. Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, the planet of like transformation and the underworld. So their sexuality is tied to these deep, deep emotions.
Okay, that kind of makes sense, but also kind of intimidating,
Yeah.
especially for like a Cancer, right? They're emotional too, but maybe more in a gentle, nurturing way. So how does that emotional landscape work with Scorpios? Like, is it a good mix or a recipe for, I don't know, disaster?
See, this is where it gets really interesting. The potential's there for a super profound connection, like almost spiritual. Both signs crave that deep intimacy, really being seen and understood. But, and it's a big but,
Uh-oh.
Scorpio's intensity can be a lot for Cancer, especially if they haven't figured out how to balance, that Plutonian power with being gentle.
Yeah, the analysis actually says that Scorpio might need to dial it back a bit at first. Otherwise, it's going to feel too much, too soon for Cancer, right? And then you've got misunderstandings, conflicts.
Exactly. Think of it like this. Cancer's emotional world, it's like a garden, needs tending, not a hurricane,
Yeah.
If Scorpio comes in too hot too fast, it's like emotionally trampling all over it. Building trust, that's going to be hard.
And speaking of trust, this analysis does not mess around with how vital that is to a Scorpio. Like, it straight up uses the word malefic to describe how they might react if they're betrayed.
It's kind of scary. Is that their Plutonian side coming out?
Totally. Betrayal. Cuts deep for Scorpio. Their reaction, intense, fueled by jealousy, wanting control back. Remember, they're terrified of vulnerability, so anything that feels like a threat to that trust triggers those more destructive tendencies. Okay, so we've got all these strong emotions, a need for intense intimacy, but then this fear of being vulnerable, especially for Scorpio, makes me think communication is key. But this analysis also says that Cancer and Scorpio, a lot of times they just get each other without words, almost like a sixth sense. Is that an astrology thing, or are we getting kind of psychic here?
Not quite telepathy, thankfully. But you're on to something. Because they're both water signs, Cancer and Scorpio. Super intuitive. They pick up on stuff other signs miss. Creates that feeling of a psychic link, yeah.
Wow, so they can, like, sense each other's moods, feelings. Do they even need to talk then?
That's where it gets even more complicated.
Yeah. So it sounds like even with this amazing intuition, they can't skip the actual talking part, huh? This analysis says they can talk about anything, just as long as it's not, like, emotionally heavy stuff. But honestly, with the connection this intense, can you even separate those two things?
Right. That's the tricky part. And this is where understanding their emotional styles is super important. We talked about Scorpio's intensity, that fear of being vulnerable. Well, they tend to keep those tough feelings bottled up, like expressing them out loud, almost see it as weakness.
Wow.
But Cancer, totally different. They need to express their emotions. It's how they deal with their inner world. Like essential self-care.
Yeah. Okay, so you've got this clash, right? Scorpio's keeping everything locked down tight, and Cancer's trying to, like, open the floodgates. No wonder this analysis is all about finding balance. How do they even begin to bridge that gap?
This is where they can actually help each other grow. Imagine. Cancer, so nurturing, creates this safe emotional space. They can teach Scorpio that vulnerability, not weak, it's strong. It deepens connection, intimacy, all the things they both want.
And what about Scorpio? What do they bring to the table?
Well, Scorpio's got that natural strength, right? They can teach Cancer about boundaries because, let's be real, sometimes Cancer's nurturing side means they get taken advantage of.
Oh, for sure.
But Scorpio, they can empower Cancer to be like, nope, this is what I need, to say no. So you see, each sign helps the other be more balanced emotionally.
This is so interesting. So even where there's potential for conflict, like communication or how they express feelings, there's this huge opportunity for growth. But what about shared values? This analysis talks about how Cancer wants stability, but Scorpio is all about transformation. Those seem like total opposites. Can you really have both when one person wants the calm harbor and the other is like chasing the storm?
It's true, on the surface it looks like a mismatch. Cancer, influenced by the moon, wants security, feeling safe emotionally. They like routine, that cozy home environment. Scorpio, though, driven by Pluto, craves change, evolution. They're drawn to the depths, even the kind of dark parts of life.
So long term, how does that work? Is Cancer constantly going to feel unsettled by Scorpio's need for change? And Scorpio's going to be suffocated by Cancer wanting everything to stay the same.
That's why you got to look deeper at how these seemingly opposite desires actually work together. See, Scorpio also wants security in their own way. But for them, it comes from knowing they can survive anything, that they can keep reinventing themselves and come out stronger. Cancer can be that safe haven. Scorpio needs to process all those intense experiences.
In Cancer, always wanting that stability, maybe Scorpio actually helps them loosen up a bit, right?
Exactly. It's about pushing each other out of comfort zones, but in a safe, supportive way. Scorpio helps Cancer evolve, and Cancer provides the grounding that lets Scorpio really explore who they are.
Okay, so those opposite desires for stability and change, they actually balance each other out. Cool. But what about just like day-to-day stuff? I'm picturing this. Scorpio's idea of a fun date is like spelunking in a bat cave, and Cancer's suggesting a quiet night in with a good book. Because this analysis, it even mentions Scorpio being into like dangerous activities, not exactly Cancer's idea of a relaxing time, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. Finding that everyday groove can be tricky for them. Scorpio wanting adventure, pushing limits. Cancer's more about peace, quiet, things being familiar.
So it's not just the big picture stuff, it's also making those daily differences work. Sound like compromise is kind of crucial, huh?
Totally. For this to really work, both Cancer and Scorpio got to meet in the middle. Maybe Scorpio learns to appreciate those cozy nights
Yeah.
in that Cancer's so good at creating, realizes that's part of recharging after those adventures.
Makes sense.
And Cancer, with a little nudge from Scorpio, maybe they find out they are kind of adventurous after all. Step out of that comfort zone, try something new.
Like they each have this piece the other one needs, but it takes effort. It's not just magically getting each other, they have to work at it, huh?
Exactly. This isn't a relationship where you just coast. The analysis is very clear about that. It takes work, being self-aware, being willing to stretch a little, but, and it's a big but, the payoff is huge.
We're talking like real transformation, not just for each person, but for the relationship itself.
Right. This is about way more than just passion or liking the same things on the surface. This is two souls connecting on this deep water element level,
Yeah.
facing those emotional depths together and coming out stronger because of it.
Wow, that's powerful. So what's the takeaway for our listeners if they're in this pairing or, I don't know, thinking about dipping their toes in?
Yeah.
What should they keep in mind?
Here's the thing. This pairing, incredible potential for love, but you got to be ready to go deep. Both people have to show up, face their own stuff, be open to being vulnerable, to compromise. That's how you grow. And if they're willing to do that, the rewards are amazing.
This has been, wow, eye-opening, to say the least. We talked about that intense attraction, the bumps in the road with trust, expressing emotions, but also that this could be something really special. It seems like, yeah, astrology gives us clues, but any relationship, it comes down to the people, right? And how much they're willing to work for it.
Perfectly said. It's like a dance.
Yeah.
You're constantly aware, adjusting, committed to figuring it out as you go.
A dance through the depths. I like that. Perfect way to wrap things up. To everyone listening, whether you're a Cancer with a Scorpio or in a totally different astrological combo, remember, love, with all its ups and downs, it's about discovery. Keep exploring, keep learning, and as always, happy diving.